Hey WILDR folks, Alicia here. When skiers come into my gym or start working with me online, there's 3 areas that I typically will look at right away to see if their addiction to skiing has affected the way they move. And so if you want to make sure that your time on hill doesn't affect your longevity in the sport or your ability to enjoy other adventures, then listen up, because we're going to be talking about 3 areas to work on after a day on the hill and 1 exercise that hits all 3 of these zones. The first area that I always look at is a client's ankles. Now, when you're wearing a ski boot, you're kind of wearing a cast on your lower leg and foot. And although you're moving your foot and your ankle within the boot to make those turns, you still have way less range of motion in boots than you would out of them. Just watch this comparison of the range of motion of a foot and ankle inside a boot versus out of a boot. To counteract this for your ankles, you need to spend some time stretching your gastrocnemius and your soleus by doing a straight-legged and bent-legged calf stretch. And you also need to work on stretching out what we call your plantar flexion, or your ability to point your toe, by stretching out your tibialis anterior. Now, after you stretch these, you need to use them in an active way throughout their entire range of motion to make sure that you maintain that increased range of motion throughout ski season and beyond. The next area you want to work on is your feet. Now, similar to your ankles, these feet are stuck in essentially a cast while you're out on the ski hill. In fact, I see a lot of similarities between folks who spend a lot of time in hiking boots to folks who spend a lot of time in ski boots when it comes to their feet. You want to make sure that you're keeping the intrinsic muscles of your feet, in fact, there's 19 different muscles in each foot, active and strengthened, especially after they spent all day crammed into ski boots. Building up the strength and mobility of those feet is going to give you better agility and better balance on the hill and off the hill, and it's going to lead to healthier and happier hips and knees as well. Try simple foot exercises like big toe, little toe lifts, foot crunches, and spreading of the feet actively and passively to keep those 19 muscles strong and supple. You also want to add barefoot balance to make sure that you maintain that neural connection to your feet. Just watch how those little muscles work in this simple single leg balance movement. The third area of the body that you want to work on when you get off the hill is your hip flexors. Now, in between sitting on a chairlift for a long period of time and the fact that a majority of the turn when you're skiing is spent in a bent leg or bent hip position, those hip flexors can need a little love at the end of the ski day. Spending a little time in true, real hip extension at the end of the day skiing is going to translate into healthier hips and likely less low back pain going forward. Exercises like glute bridges, 90-90 stretching, and this standing quad stretch can also hit your hip flexors. Now, I've given you a lot of little exercises to do to work on each of these 3 components, but I will tell you there is 1 exercise that I come back to time and time again at the end of the ski day that helps all 3 of these areas in 1 simple movement. Most days after a day skiing, I simply spend 5 minutes doing this exercise on my left side and then my right side for the simplest après stretch ever. This exercise is the lunge into shrimp squat. Now, with any stretch, you want to approach this one slowly. Always begin at a depth that feels so easy, it's ridiculous. And then as you get warm and get connected to your muscles, you can increase the depth to increase the stretch and strength required for every muscle. We are starting in a lunge on a built-up surface. Then we're going to actively raise our heel to our butt. Hold on to it with a hand or a sweater, whichever works better for your mobility right now. And then stand in that shrimp squat position to fully extend both hips. Over the course of 5 minutes, gradually decrease the height of the stool or raised surface that you're using, and just like that, mobility will be unlocked. You are going to be working on your balance, your intrinsic foot strength, your ankle mobility, your quad and hip flexor extendability, and more by doing this exercise at the end of a ski day. It literally took me years after stopping competitive ski racing to regain that range of motion through my ankles, and this exercise was a massive part of my recovery. Now, we actually have a 5-minute mobility where we can do this lunge into shrimp squat together, and I'm gonna link to it below. I would love to hear how this exercise works out for you after your next day skiing. All right, have a wilder week and we'll talk to you guys soon.